country's space agency has successfully launched a record-breaking number of satellites. India's space research organization sent a single rocket into orbit with 104 satellites on board, surpassing a record previously held by Russia. There is one Earth observation satellite on board, and the other 103, they're nano satellites, most of them for other countries, including Israel, Kazakhstan, the Netherlands, Switzerland, the UAE, as well as the US. Now, the Indian state space program is known for its budget technology. It sent an unmanned rocket to Mars at a cost of $73 million. Compare that to the US's NASA Maven Mars mission. That cost $671 million. We're going to talk about India's space program with Rajaswari Rajagopalan. She's a senior fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. She's also the head of the Nuclear and Space Policy Initiative. She writes extensively on India's space aspirations, joining us from New Delhi. So what are India's space aspirations then? Why is India making space research such a priority?
Clearly, India has been looking at the space program for a very long time. It's more than 5 decades now. But primarily, India's focus has been on the social and economic developmental aspects. But lately, there have been certain developments in the neighborhood, in particular, that are pushing India in a certain direction, which is more in terms of securing its interests from a geopolitical perspective. There are several instances. For instance, the Chinese anti-satellite test in 2007 was a sort of a wake-up call. So from then onwards, I think India has been making a push towards developing a sort of a somewhat more militaristic as well as security-oriented space program. So that's the main. India is in a sort of a cusp at this point of time, moving away from a purely civilian, peaceful space program to one that has also a sort of a military as well as space security perspective in play.
You know, a lot of people asking, though, how come India is known for its budget technology, so how come it's cheaper to launch such satellites from India?
That's right, absolutely. There has always been this question about, even for instance, the Mars mission that India undertook was barely 75 million, which was a fraction of the cost that the US has undertaken, in a sense, similar missions. But I think a couple of factors go into this. One is, of course, the reusability of certain components, certain systems, and so on and so forth. But also the other important aspect has always been the there has been also the certain government subsidies that has come into play, which has always been been advantageous for the Indian Space Research Organization. So both the factors put together, I think it has been particularly worked good for India, and therefore even it has stood the competition even with other major players who are coming up, like the SpaceX, for instance, who also plan to use reusable launch vehicles. But even so, the Indian PSLV, the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle cost, has been much more affordable for a lot of countries. So I think that's become a much more attractive option. So India offers a very cost-effective, yet very reliable launch systems in play, and I think that's why India is looking to cash on this particular market, in a sense, and don't want to lose out the commercial market opportunities that is available at this point of time.
All right, we thank you very much for speaking to us from New Delhi.